What if I were to suggest that you play a key role in the awakening world? And that you are watching this because you have heard the call. We can start right now by opening our hearts and minds. Welcome to the awakening world.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Awakening World, our Saturday night edition. And I'm really excited because we have a really fascinating group of people that are going to be with us tonight, people from all over the world, and they're all members of the Evolutionary Leaders Network. And we're going to be hearing from them and gaining a lot of wisdom. But before we go forward with our show, it's an especially exciting evening because someone we all love very, very much, who's been away for a few weeks, is back. And of course, I'm talking about my co-pilot, the man who makes so many wonderful things happen, beloved Omashar. Welcome back home.
Namaste and aloha, everybody. And it is really rather awesome to be back home. I have been on a very interesting adventure with the coming towards the end of the life of my mother, and so it was incredibly draining and then straining, however very enriching. I managed to touch a few places in my heart and my family's heart that I didn't know I'd closed off till. So maybe as we go along we can talk about that, but it's so wonderful to be here again, and I missed everybody.
Well, and it was wonderful how you created all those videos for us. So we still played, your videos, and I showed some of the photos of you at Glastonbury. So you were very much.
Yeah, exactly. A virtual presence. Yeah, it was funny because just before I left, Scott, you said, "Oh, I wish I'd asked for some videos," and so I spent the next 5 hours going, "Okay, let's do this." And I'm really glad I did, because they'll live on forever as well in digital world. So
yeah, and those videos were really fun, and people in every show were saying, "We miss Omashar. When is Omashar coming back?"
So here I am, and I'll play a little song now, and then we can get on with the rest of the show.
Okay.
How about that? home again. Open hearts and open minds and open doors and loving friends. Look at the one who's standing by you now. Destiny is in our hands, so we'll leave the density behind. We are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. Turning to the face of those who need the light of truth to help them turn the other cheek and turn around. Lift each other up into the highest point of view so that together we can move to higher ground. Hey, Jerry. Contemplating everything I knew. Seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to. Contemplating what is pure and true. Sun and moon and stars and light and earth and water too. We are rising, soaring, flying, living life so free. We are flowing, changing, growing, loving all we see. Turning to the face of those who need the light of truth to help them turn the other cheek and turn around. Lift each other up into the highest point of view so that together we can move to higher ground. Contemplating everything I knew. Seems as though there's not much left that I would hold on to.
Beautiful. Welcome back, Omashar.
Thank you,
Good to be
brother.
back with us live.
Fun. I feel at home, and that is really important to me.
Well, this is your home, and we are your family, and we love
Yes.
you very much. Welcome home, brother.
Thank you. Namaste.
Absolutely. And we will have more Omashar later on in the show, of course. So tonight, one of the things I really enjoy about this show is I get to have co-hosts. And there's certain co-hosts that I get really excited and actually almost a little nervous when I have. And tonight I have one of my favorite people, I love to call her Rev Deb, but for the first introduction, I will introduce her as Reverend Deborah Moldow. And she is, of course, the person who really brings together members of the Evolutionary Leaders Network. I think this is our 4th or 5th show that we've done together. And they're always great shows with amazing teachers and leaders from all over the world sharing their wisdom. So welcome, Reverend Deborah Moldow, who from now on I will be calling Rev Deb because I love calling her that. Welcome.
And I love that. And I love being uplifted by Omashar's music. Thank you so much. It's so from the heart. It just, it lifts us all. Thank you. Thank you. And Scott, just a joy to be back with you. It was great to finally meet you in person in Sedona in March.
Wasn't it? It was beautiful being together.
It didn't feel like we had never met, right?
I know. But it's beautiful when we've worked with people and then you finally meet for the first time. And what you put together, and I want to say, a lot of you heard about it. The retreat she put together in March in Sedona was extraordinary. There were 80 people, I believe, all members of the Evolutionary Leaders Network. And it was just one of the great weeks of our life. It was very, very special.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. And of course, I didn't personally put it together all by myself. We had a wonderful team headed by the Source of Synergy Foundation and Purpose Earth. So, but it was a very special event. And tonight is a very special evening.
Tell us a little bit about tonight, and I know you've got introduction.
Okay, I'm excited about this. First of all, I always love to do these shows where I get to invite members of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle. As you all know, Scott is a member, and all of the presenters tonight are members also. And what does that mean? Does that mean they're the ones, they're the leaders? No, of course not. It means they are among the amazing visionaries who are attempting to raise the consciousness of humanity before we fall off the cliff that seems to be coming toward us with all of these climate emergencies and political strife. And, you know, there's a lot to be concerned about on our planet right now. And I know that all of you who are with us this evening, everyone who's in the Zoom room with us, the wonderful Global Peace Tribe, and everyone who's listening or watching this program on Facebook through the Sign Network, all of you are part of this evolution. And what you do counts. It makes a difference. So the evolutionary leaders, our tagline is in service to conscious evolution. Now, where would we get a term like that? Well, from the extraordinary late Barbara Marx Hubbard. I'm sure many, many of you know her work and were inspired by her work for many decades. And this program is Barbara inspired. So Barbara, we welcome you in spirit, and we welcome you through our guests this evening. So after we've had an extraordinary sound bath by Dr. Ivy Shadia, and if you've heard her before, you know that that's going to lift us even higher, because that woman knows how to raise the frequency in a beautiful, deep, inspiring way. So after that, when our guests speak, we're going to be focused on codes for planetary awakening. And these codes, well, I'm not going to say too much about it because Juan Carlos, who worked closely with Barbara for many, many years, he's going to be our first speaker, and he'll let you know what this is about. But just to understand that we're not talking about some sort of code like there's a formula hidden away somewhere in a cave, and once we get that, then we'll know what to do. No, it's about the codes that are within us, that are embedded in our very DNA, that we are activating at this critical moment here on planet Earth. So as Scott said, we have a very diverse group now. We have the wonderful Dr. Elizabeth Saturis, evolution biologist. I can't wait to hear her again. It's always a joy to be with her. We have Ken Kitatani, who's working now with the United Nations. And I have to say that I met almost all of these people for the first time at the United Nations. And Ken is a very active member of the NGO community there. And I'm going to tell you a big secret. The NGO community at the United Nations is like the heart and soul of what happens there. So there are many dedicated diplomats and particularly wonderful people who work in the agencies and departments of the United Nations. But they call the NGO community the conscience of the UN. And very beautiful work goes on there. There are many spiritual NGOs who are affiliated with the United Nations, like the one I worked with, that promoting may peace prevail on earth. So anyway, that's where I met Ken. That was through that community that I met Elizabeth. And Barbara, we brought Barbara Marx Hubbard to the United Nations. Of course, she had been there before, but she insisted on bringing Juan Carlos with her. And finally, we have with us Mindahi Bastida. And Mindahi is an Otomi native to the part of Mexico where I live. And he has taught me so much about our relationship with the natural world and our responsibilities. So we have wonderful speakers. We have Dr. Ivy. You'll hear from Juan Carlos Kaitin. Is he going to be next?
Yes.
Or do we have
yes.
something else first? Okay, let's just
No,
see.
if you want to
see
introduce
Juan Carlos.
Carlos, and then we will, in about 10, 12 minutes, go to Dr. Mama.
Yes, so can we see Juan Carlos with the other guests, please,
We
on the
can.
screen?
There he is.
And I want to give a special shout out to Juan Carlos because I went to visit him in Tepoztlán, amazing city that's like the Sedona of Mexico, that's south of Mexico City. And that's where we hatched this program. And Juan Carlos suggested our amazing speakers. So couldn't have done it without him. So do we have time for him to speak first before we do the meditation?
Yes, please.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So Juan Carlos Kaitin, he's a social architect. Now, you may not have ever heard of such a thing before, but you're going to meet one tonight. And he was inspired by the conscious evolution framework that Barbara Marx Hubbard worked on for many years. And he worked closely with her for more than 8 years, developing and implementing her famous wheel of co-creation and a diverse array of social synergy tools. And he's worked in Mexico, in the States, in Europe, in Egypt, and all of our guests tonight have worked all around the world and sometimes together. So I'm going to let Juan Carlos Kaitin tell you why this evening we're going to be discussing codes for planetary awakening. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. The term of codes for a planetary awakening came to me when I was living in Boston. I quit the corporate world. I was working as a subcontractor for GE in Albany, Schenectady, New York. And I said, I'm going to quit. This is not the place where the world is going to make a transition or my contribution. And I said, God, I want to work for a planetary awakening. And I ended up opening a coffee house and awakening the world and people with espressos, mochas, and cappuccinos, early morning 7-Eleven. That was my first approach to planetary awakening. Yet, while we were in Boston, open with that coffee house in Central Square, there was a book there that was a gift from one of the founders, the sponsors of the coffee house. And that was the book of Barbara Marx Hubbard, the book of conscious evolution. And as I started going through the book, I just said to myself, these are codes for a planetary awakening. That was 2000. It took me 12 years to meet her. And that was when I got one of the next book, which is The Promise Will Be Kept. And I just randomly opened that book. And there was this line, there is an alternative to apocalypse, and that is the planetary Pentecost, is the Christification of Earth. And I said to myself, wow, there is a choice. We can consciously evolve. And so my work has been on the area of collective intelligence. And then one of my passions has been spirituality. So working with collective intelligence, I became or learned the art of becoming a social architect. But when I brought the spiritual part to that, I started working more into what social alchemy is, combining the science of collective intelligence, social sciences with collective intelligence. And in that path, I started noticing patterns that humanity can embrace and capacities we can develop to choose different. Everybody is set that, okay, the world is going to end, climate crisis, economic crisis, like nuclear crisis, and all sorts of crises. And pretty much everybody believes that that is the future we are moving towards. But few people talks about what is that golden age that has always been prophetized. We don't need, there is a choice, and that's what Barbara says in that book. We are in the moment on this choice point. We can choose different. So these codes of planetary awakening, I see them as a window of opportunity, that if we learn and embrace and activate those codes, we might be closer to a planetary party, to this planetary awakening, closer than what we think. And one of the pieces, I think, is we are in a very deep crisis of belief, because we have enough resources in the planet to fund any initiative we want. We have the solutions. We have pioneers. We have solutions to most of the biggest problems, I will say. And we have very skillful people with projects, initiatives, and programs to make them real. There's enough resources. So what is really missing for us to make that choice? I believe these codes that I've been collecting through the past 20, 30 years of my work on collective intelligence, spirituality, and some of them have come to me in very amusing way, like some dreams that I had dreams with, then they came with some confirmation before noon. So I've been collecting those experiences for over these years. And when I put them together recently, I just said to myself, these are codes for a planetary awakening. And I could very clearly see the leaders and the experts working very diligently behind each one of those codes. So today we want to enlighten, to present, and perhaps there is nothing new to many of you in terms of learning about the codes. What is important is to see how they are connected, how they are interconnected, how it is that by activating properly, we can actually, I will say in a decade or less, bring very great and beautiful changes to the planet. So I'm very happy to start presenting. I'm also very honored and thankful to my friends that accepted to come. Mindahi, Ken, everybody here. Elizabeth, too, very nice to have you again here after we met in Hawaii not long ago. So, well, this is a brief introduction to these codes. I'm very happy to get started.
Juan
Well, we're
Carlos,
so happy to have you here. And I want to mention one other person that you and Scott invited, and me too, and that is Anna Marie Verhoeven, who will be speaking to us pre-recorded from the Netherlands later on this evening. And I know that you've worked with her in the amazing work that she does in Europe. So we're really going to cover the world this evening as well, right?
Beautiful, yes. With Anne-Marie, we did amazing work. We did work with Barbara Marshobart, with Don Beck, and we got them to bring some of the codes in which the spiral meet the wheel, and we did some very interesting work in Monterey with Anne-Marie, Barbara, Erwin Laszlo, activating some of these codes. So we will share more about this.
The amazing Erwin Laszlo and the late Don Beck, who was one of the major pioneers of spiral dynamics. So this is going to be a very rich conversation this evening.
we have like 3 or 4 minutes before I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mama Ivy Shadia. So question for you, Juan Carlos. As we listen and learn tonight, how can we apply our understanding of this to our daily lives?
Well, as Deborah said, we are already living these codes. These codes are part of us, and we are just remembering the knowledge that is coming from the universe. So the universe is evolving through us, and we are just the avatars of this evolution and moving into higher levels of consciousness, into higher levels of experiencing love. So the codes, just as a brief introduction, we will be speaking about the network of networks, how it is that we are all interconnected, how it is that these networks are already happening and we are part of them. We are living them. The interesting piece are the quality of the energy and the frequency in these networks, how it is that the personal work that we are doing is actually uplifting the planet. So we have a big responsibility, because the planetary awakening is something that happens inside of each one of us. each one of us will have to do the work. And as we move forward, embracing higher levels of love in our hearts, and we bring that into whether we are an engineer, an architect, a doctor, whatever function you have, we are affecting the whole. And we need to be aware of the impact, of how we are already part of this movement, and we just need to be aware of that. One of the other quotes we will be speaking is about being invisible to become invisible. And that's what the network of networks activates. So we will be going deeper into that, but this is important what you are saying. We are already part of this. There is no one that is small to the big transformation that is happening in the planet. We are all playing a very important part of it.
That's a really beautiful piece for us to all really realize that all of us are vessels to bring in this awakening world. And of course, that's what our show is dedicated to, is our own personal awakening as well as our planetary awakening. I also want to invite now our Twin Ray community that's coming in every night at 6:30. We do a group meditation. So now our Twin Ray community is with us. And we have a very special person who's going to be doing tonight's meditation. She's been on the show many times, but I would love for Rev Deb to introduce Dr. Mama Ivy Shadia.
Oh, that's my joy. Juan Carlos just mentioned that these codes were about reaching a higher level of love. And I can't think of anyone better to usher us into that higher level of love than Ivy Shadia. She, if you have heard her before, then you have been under her spell. She does so many things with sound because she's an integrative health practitioner. And she uses what she calls sound vibronics to bring about stress reduction, meditation, and what she calls the sonic mind streaming emotional wellness. And that's a listening app that you can find. So this evening for our meditation, she is going to give us a sound bath that's going to raise us into a frequency so that when we go talk about these planetary codes, they will resonate deeply in our bodies, minds, and spirits. Dr. Ivy Shadia.
Yes.
That is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Mhm.
Dr. Ivy, could we ask you to bring up that pyramid gong and tell everyone what that is, because I know I've never seen one like that before. I can't hear you. Wow. Magnificent.
Dr. Ivy, I think this is probably your 7th or 8th time on the show, and it's always such, you bring so much love. And as people are chatting up, I hope you can read all the comments in the chat box, because so many people are giving thanks right now. And I do want to direct people to her website. And this is a wonderful place to go, where she provides so many of her sound vibronics, her sonic mind streaming meditation events. And it's drivysoundspa.com. drivysoundspa.com. And that's where you can really just drop in. She provides so many gifts for all of us on this website. And of course, that's also where you can, join her group and learn more about her. And there we are. Dr. Ivy, we love you so much. Thank you for helping us to really drop deeper into remembrance, our divine remembrance, that we are carrying the planetary codes within us.
Beautiful.
Well,
And-
Rev
and
Deb,
bringing us
what-
to a place where we can receive and give as both as the star beings we are, and also in our earthly form. Very special.
as there's so many comments that came in, I'm going to read just a few. Eleanor Joy writes, "What a gorgeous sound bath, very healing and peaceful, beautiful meditation. It was also medication for some of us.
Very
Just
healing.
just what we needed to connect us right back to God, to the source. Eye and crown chakra is now wide open."
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
And you have a very special guest that you're now going to introduce us to.
I do. And you know, Scott, I love all of my evolutionary leaders.
I know you do.
But Elizabeth, I've loved for a very long time, almost 30 years now, Elizabeth, since we met. And you are so special to me in so many ways. And as one of our very first original evolutionary leaders back when we started, and now you are an elder in our community, and yet you always bring such a fresh perspective to every conversation. I just love to listen to you and to learn about you. Elizabeth is an evolution biologist. So you can all imagine what that means, that she actually takes this worldview of life on planet Earth and situates us and our human evolution within that continuum. And I love, we have the bios of everyone, all of our members of our Evolutionary Leaders Circle on our website at evolutionaryleaders.net. And many of them have given us quotes. And I love Elizabeth's quote. She says, you may not remember what you said because it was a long time ago, but she said, if bacteria could learn to cooperate without benefit of heart or brain, surely we humans should be able to do that as well. So I'd like to bring on Juan Carlos to speak a little bit with Elizabeth about why you wanted to invite her to this particular conversation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And lovely to be here with both of you. Thank you for joining us, Elizabeth. Well, as I shared these quotes for a planetary awakening, I've been collecting like a series of 20 of them, and I believe they have to be connected in one way or another. I remember, when I was at the Pachamama Alliance symposium and I brought that to Mexico, there was a video of you speaking about the butterfly and what happens when we come together and we make the impossible or possible. So I would like you, and then when we met recently in that conference with Kalan in Honolulu, you told me about the pockets of coherence and how it may be that when we bring all of these pockets of coherence together, I think that we will be activating in a way the power of 8. What will happen where those pockets of coherence, meaning small groups of people in communities across the world, connecting, activating something like the power of 8, like reaching a high level of frequency, and then connecting as a network, and then moving into the element of everybody all at once, having an imprint in the morphogenetic field. Then we can move into the activation of what I believe is the power of love, that frequency based in love. That's one of the quotes I've been receiving and studying, and I have seen those in dreams, how that power can activate and create like a immediate spark of light and love in the planet that could take us to a very rapid awakening. I saw that in a dream, and when you spoke to me about that, I woke up and say, wow, what about that's the planetary awakening? Like it could happen that way. And when I spoke to you last time, you told me about this in a beautiful way, your vision about pockets of coherence. So perhaps you could take us into a deeper and more scientific understanding on how that is possible, how that is already happening on Earth, and perhaps who are the leading organizations of people like actually manifesting that, so we could join and be in service to whoever's are just kind of like leading the way on this code.
You need to unmute, Dr. Elizabeth.
You're on mute. Yeah.
You still need to unmute, sweetheart.
I'm sorry, I thought the host had unmuted me. Mahalo, Juan Carlos. Aloha, everyone from here in Hawaii, which has been very much in the global news recently. Speaking of those high vibrations, I want to thank, first of all, Dr. Ivy for that gorgeous sound bath. And because of I'm following up on her, I think the first thing I'd like to really mention is my keyboard metaphor of vibrations. It comes from the ancient Sufi notion that cosmic sound is of an even higher vibration than light, and then our human sound on our planet in our physical world comes next to light down in frequency. If you look at all the frequencies of the universe as an endless keyboard, then you see matter in the low, slow keys, the lower, slower vibrations. And as you move up the keyboard, you get into electromagnetic energy. And Einstein showed us that the music is transposable back and forth, that it's the same thing, these vibrations. And then as we move up, we get into beyond electromagnetic energy, into the non-physical. Gradually, you see these vibrations become less and less material until we are up in mind, spirit, and cosmic consciousness within which all these vibrations happen. So you are not a body with a mind. You're a body, mind, spirit. You're all of that whole continuum. And it is only from a physical perspective that you can play this entire keyboard of vibrations. The angels only play in the high keys, in the non-material vibrations. And that's why they say they're lined up for human bodies, isn't it? Because only from a human body do you get that deep, rich resonance of the physical world and are able to take your mind through the inner world. As you watch the outer world, we also watch the inner world all the way up to the highest possible vibrations, which we connect to in meditation. You can see the one-page version of this keyboard on my website, which is simply saturus.com, my last name.com, so that anyone can download it and look at this in more detail. As an evolution biologist, I think the most important thing I uncovered was a maturation cycle that goes on over and over and over. I don't have time in these few minutes to go all the way back to the bacteria, Reverend Deb, but they learned how to move out of a competitive phase into a cooperative phase. And then the big cooperatives that they invented had to go through their youth and mature into the cooperative phase. And we humans are now at the end of about 10,000 years of empire building, top-down, youthful kinds of expansion economies, just as our own bodies expanded up to adolescence. Then we had to become cooperative at one size, right? So what I learned from this maturation cycle is that we're at the end of this era of empire. It is collapsing. These big systems are now, we know, unsustainable, and they are coming down of their own weight. And our job is to move into the mature phase, which is, of course, the phase of caring and sharing for each other, sharing, loving, building that better world that we've all dreamed of, and now is the time. So I have many examples of people doing this all over the world now. It's not just in America, it's everywhere. And some of my favorite examples are, for instance, the Global Eco-Village Network, where eco-villages from all around the world on all continents have now been united through Ross Jackson's funding so that they can help each other, not have to reinvent the wheel every time there's a new community, can share what they've learned, can speed things up that way, and can develop this, imagine them, each one of them as a light on the planet. And those lights then connect with each other. And we have other wonderful examples. Well, in the US, we have BALI, the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies, where the businesses are trying to set up so that one business's waste is the next one's food. Just as in nature, where everything is recycled, that's part of our future learning. And I believe that things are very, very serious now. I don't think, Reverend Deb, that we're going to fall off a cliff, but we are going to have to navigate our way through a kind of narrow channel into the future, where those communities that learn to care and share, to take care of each other, to be able to do that, to feed and nurture each other, to have enough water to get through that bottleneck channel, then we can take the inspiration for doing that from so many other examples. Let me mention just a couple of them. The Sarvodaya, Sarvodaya movement in Sri Lanka, founded by Dr. Aryaratne, who you know. And I've been in his home in Sri Lanka and seen that. has 15,000 little hamlets and tiny villages, all helping each other bootstrap in their development. And their children are taught to meditate from a very early age on just two principles: inner peace and generosity. Imagine that world in which we are each a peaceful being focused on what we have to give to others. Isn't that beautiful? It's kind of all we need. Now, in Spain, in Basque Spain, there's the Mondragon cooperatives, some of you may have heard of, and those are a case of urban cooperatives rather than the rural ones. So we know how to do that too. 40 years or more ago, a Catholic priest went around to all the places where young people hang out and said, what if we build a new culture that's not communist or capitalist, but based on loving human relationships? And again, I urge you, go to the Mondragon websites and see. They have their own university and their art museum and their hospitals, and every business is co-owned, and no one can earn more than 6 times the lowest salary. They got through the bad recession in 2008, helped the rest of Spain recover, and now they have their products, which are buses and washing machines and all kinds of industrial equipment, are sold all over the planet. And anyway, that's a good urban example. So I don't want to talk too much longer here because I know we have other speakers. But I do want to say that I've been studying the climate situation now for 40 years, first with Jim Lovelock, later with Jim Hansen, and those are the 2 best climatologists I've ever known in my life. And back then, 40 years ago, when Jim Lovelock came to visit me on a Greek island where I lived, he said, Elizabeth, pray for the next ice age. We're due for one. But it looks like we may be tilting the planet into the opposite, into a hot age. I believe we have done that. We have given Earth the kind of fever she's had before, but never while humans were around. We've survived many ice ages, but never a hot age. And that's only about as much hotter as we consider normal as an ice age is colder. So it is possible for us to survive during a hot age. But we'll have to look very carefully at where we try to build our communities and how we can help each other to survive in the future. So let me just say that, you know, here in Maui, we just had this, and in Maui, Hawaii, we just had this terrible explosive fire in a whole town. Canada is burning across the whole of itself and pouring smoke down into the United States. Greece is burning. These things are happening, and they will happen faster and faster. I believe nation states will absolutely go broke trying to remedy these situations, and we will probably have to rely for our cities for one thing. And I love that there are alliances of mayors, because cities don't have armies. They don't waste their resources on making war with each other. We have to end war. We have to find ways of taking the profits out of warfare. So how am I doing on time? Have I used it up now, Scott?
No, actually, because you are such a wonderful presenter. And actually, I wanted to ask you a question. I'm going to your website. And when you were on our show before, you spoke of the wonderful book that you wrote, Gaia's Dance, The Story of Earth and Us, a children's book for grown-ups. And I was so touched by that book, and I got a copy of it. Would you be willing to just share with people a little bit about that? Because I want to encourage people to get this book. It's so beautiful.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Gaia's Dance is actually a shorter version of a previous book called Earth Dance. And I just had an email this morning from a man in Morocco who said he had just read it. It totally changed his life. He's translated the whole thing into French. And he hoped he had my permission to do that and distribute it, which I am happy to give. And I just came back from a long trip to Estonia, where somebody had read it 20 years ago. The book is 20 years ago, and it seems to be as current as ever. And the main stories of it are in Gaia's Dance. So both of those, Earth Dance is actually, you can find free copies of it online. And Gaia's Dance, as I said, is a bit more of a storyteller book. Anyway, it's, every author loves when people come and tell you that their book has changed their lives. Your book has changed their lives. So those are very welcome things as an author. And I do hope people will enjoy the stories of Gaia's Dance. I just finished a manuscript for my last swan song, and it's going to be called Vista and is about worldviews, how my own worldview evolved over these many years up to the age of 87. And anyway, thank you for the question.
Absolutely. And I want to thank Maya Monasterios, who just gave us where we can find it on Amazon. So again, if you go to Amazon, it's Gaia's Dance, The Story of Earth and Us. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I strongly recommend it. And I'm going to bring our beloved Deb back on. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Can I just mention that I also have a little comic book for cell phones called Bacteria Are Us. This is for Reverend Deb because I think she'd love it. And if you look it up, bacteria and then the capital R and then us, like it's actually backward like toys, but you can't type that. It is available in several formats and it should show up on your cell phone. And it's the story of how the bacteria invented us as big taxis to get around in safely.
I love it. I love it, Elizabeth. And I love you. And I'm going to share another thing that I love that you said, apropos of absolutely nothing, just because I want to share this with everybody. You said you love emojis. And tell us why you love emojis.
Oh gosh, I have to think back to this.
Okay, I'll tell you why you love emojis. You love emojis because they're the first language of emotions.
Yes, exactly.
And you're so right. They take us out of our heads. And, there's so many heart emojis and wonderful, ways to express love, even to somebody that you wouldn't dare ever say, I love you to, but you could write a heart emoji, Just
it is the very first language. It's the first language of emotion, the first alphabet for emotions.
Alphabet for emotions. That's what you said. Yes. Thank you so much for being with us today, dear Elizabeth. And I'm so glad we caught you on your return from Estonia, that you've been halfway around the world. And blessings to your beloved Hawaiian home, because Pele is certainly speaking loud and clear right now, and not in a happy way.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth, for having us, for joining us. And I believe everything you say is definitely taking us to this. I see this light of love coming into the hearts of everybody. And all of these projects that you mentioned are taking us to a critical mass. And we may have a rapid awakening as society. And that's a moment that can just happen. And I love the way you are describing that as a possibility of hope that could happen anytime.
Yes, Elizabeth, can we make this evolutionary leap together? You give us hope. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I did meet Elizabeth for the first time at a conference for the United Nations in San Francisco back in 1995. And our next guest is also an evolutionary leader that I met originally through our mutual work in the NGO community at the United Nations, and that is Ken Kitatani. He serves as executive director of the Forum 21 Institute. And he's also doing some very particular work at the United Nations right now, which maybe we'll get a chance to hear about today. In addition to working with Juan Carlos and Mindahi on the protection of natural sacred sites. And I am very interested to hear more about your work, Ken. So I look forward to Juan Carlos speaking with you about the codes for planetary awakening.
Thank you and welcome, Ken. It's lovely, great to have you here. I was just with both of you in Tepoztlan, not at the same time with what some few days of difference. And when I was talking to Deborah, we were talking about the purpose of the evolutionary leaders. It's not about the many projects that the evolutionary leaders are doing, which is great, but about the frequency at the heart of the wheel of co-creation that Barbara speaks about. What is the frequency that the evolutionary leaders are holding that is bringing an imprint into the collective consciousness? People might speak a lot about books and theories, but when people is holding the frequency inside, that brings deep change and transformation. When someone does an act of love, an act of compassion, in action rather than just talking about that. And I would like, one of the quotes is about the fearless power of love. I believe that in this moment, we don't need to fight back the people that are the wrongdoers. It's about loving back. It's not fighting back, but loving back. And this has to do with reaching a mastery of a frequency inside of us. So I would like you to speak about how it is that we could reach and hold that frequency, because I believe that frequency, when we go into higher frequency, then we can also look into the social architecture of social systems. We can have a deeper understanding of how we can evolve economy to the economy of love, governance into a new, more compassive governance, education. All of our social systems can evolve when we have enough people with higher frequency that can find a better way, and when there is also a big enough critical mass of people that are ready to embrace a new economical model, new governance model, new ways of education that will bring higher consciousness and will bring us to the peace that we are talking about. But this is peace and ascension by design, starting with the change inside of us and activating this code, the fearless power of love. So when I heard you speak about that, I say, wow, you are holding, you are embodying that code, and I would love you to share your path and how that could be possible. So thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Juan Carlos, for the invitation. And again, I'd like to thank Deborah, Reverend Deborah, Rev Deb, for the introduction. And again, as she introduced me, we've known each other for quite some time. I've known Juan Carlos, I think, for over about a year. We connected actually through the evolution leaders, different types of groups, but especially through the indigenous cosmology and the work that we're doing in that space. But we've also had other mutual connections, like Laura George, Kurt Johnson, etc. And again, we share a common ancestry, that is Japan. I don't know if many people know that. And also want to thank Scott for hosting this wonderful event, for inviting me. So as Deborah mentioned, I do a lot of work at the UN through the NGO community. But today in particular, I'd like to talk about the where I'm coming from, specifically the ancient wisdom tradition of Japan, that is the indigenous spirituality of Japan, known as Kan-nagara, the path of Kan-nagara. And in terms of its cosmology, it shares the cosmology as all indigenous spiritualities and cosmology is very, very similar. But in particular, the cosmology of Japan, the indigenous spirituality of Japan, and that of the Mesoamerican culture of Mexico, the South Pacific, Hawaii, etc., is almost exactly the same. And so this is why I made a strong connection with my brother Mindahi when we connected in 2015, and were astounded at the commonalities of the creation story, but also the work that we've been mandated to do through our respective traditions and prophecies. So I was in Mexico last week visiting Mindahi and his family, and then we went to Tepoztlan, and I met Juan Carlos there. I had no idea he was there or living there. And so this is the first time we met. So it was a very, very wonderful a chance encounter, so to speak. And so we sat in ceremony and had much time to talk about these topics. So jumping right into what we have been talking about, what we are talking about today about the codes. I think what you have been inspired to speak about, what you have downloaded, so to speak, and what you've shared and studied with Barbara is quite extraordinary. This is something that I think has been talked about in all of the ancient spiritual lineages, but using different language. But I think now is the time in which these codes are coming out. And speaking of the power of love, or love with power, this is something that we practice and teach in my tradition, but I think is, how should I say, it's a time now that all humankind is, I think, being inspired and guided by the Creator and Mother Earth to awaken to. And so there are many things I can talk about, but I want to talk about the common points that have been brought up already by Elizabeth. The point that she brought up of caring and sharing, and then as we transition from an era or period of competition to an era and period of cooperation. In my tradition, we talk about the transition. We talk about this as a transition from materialism to spiritual orientation, or the material-centered age to a spirit-centered age. Doesn't mean that we're going to abandon materials, but means that all aspects of the civilization that we live in now, the material-centered civilization, will be spiritually reoriented, which means that the spiritual principles will govern all aspects of science and technology and everything that we know about in society. So it comes down to the frequency, the consciousness. And as we all know, I think all of us are like-minded practitioners and like-hearted people. We are seeking the truth. We are seeking spiritual evolution in everyday life. I'm talking about all of us who are participating in this call. And we are doing best to elevate and raise our consciousness or raise our frequency. Now, the wonderful thing is, at least the way we explain it in our tradition, is that the Creator and the universe is helping us. The vibration of light, we call fire energy, is increasing every day and has been increasing for decades. And as this light energy, this fire energy is increasing, it's bringing about cleansing and purification. But that's necessary because what it's doing is it's detoxifying all of the toxins, all of the shadow that we have within our consciousness, collectively and individually. And light, as you know, dispels darkness. But when you bring in a lot of light, too much sunlight, what does too much sunlight do? It burns, it cauterizes, it purifies. So this is why, as this light energy, the sun energy, fire energy is increasing, yes, it's cleansing and purifying, but at the same time, it's releasing and it's allowing us to elevate our consciousness. So the consciousness and frequency of the highest dimensions are coming down to the third dimension and getting stronger day by day. So the point is that the Creator and the universe is forcing all humankind to elevate their consciousness, whether they like it or not. So this is why we're living in an age where now, unlike the past, the more we can maintain positive and pure and loving vibrations, the more everything goes smooth in our lives. People, as this changes and increases day by day and year by year, soon people realize, people who have no spiritual connection or no spirituality or no spiritual path will begin to say, you know what? I realize that if I maintain positive thoughts, everything goes well. But if I issue negative vibrations or say negative things, then things fall apart. I think this is the way that the Creator is encouraging us and arranging for the spiritual evolution. But at the same time, going back to what Juan Carlos brought up, there are two aspects of love. There's the sweet love and there's the strict love or tough love. And we call that the two aspects of the great love of God. So what we don't want to misunderstand is the strict or tough love of God. There's no negativity. There's no such thing as punishment or judgment in God's world. That's something that I think only human beings engage in, or if you want to be esoteric, you can say lower level entities. But God's great love, when we talk about tough love, is a very, very powerful, positive energy. And I think that vibration or frequency that we can relate to is when we have feelings of courage or fearlessness. So especially if you are an athlete, you can relate to this. If you're playing sports and you get into the zone and you're absolutely fearless, that is the realm, the space and frequency of tough love and courage and fearlessness. And that is the love which is absolutely necessary to maintain peace and equanimity and gratitude and love when we are being bombarded or attacked or under duress and stress. So I think it's important to cultivate both aspects of the sweet, compassionate, kind love, but at the same time to also cultivate this tough love within ourselves, which already exists within ourselves. Yes, that is God's love. That is a true vibration frequency of God, the creator in the highest dimensions. We say that in the highest dimension, there's only love and joy. We tend to forget joy. Joy is also a very, very powerful frequency of the divine world. And so one sign of spiritual elevation and spiritual evolution is that you become happier and happier, and you become able to manifest more of this compassionate love and tough love. Now, as we know, in our deepest consciousness, there are 3 levels of consciousness. There's a conscious mind, subconscious, and deepest consciousness. And so we need to really work on cleaning up the deepest consciousness, which contains both this light of love and joy, but at the same time, that is also where we have our spiritual toxins and our shadow. And so as we work on purifying and cleaning up this aspect of the deepest consciousness, as the shadow decreases, then naturally our own divine true radiance will become uncovered and will expose itself. It's just like clouds being removed from the cloudy sky and the sun exposes itself. The reason why I'm talking about this is because Juan Carlos is talking about how can we maintain this pure, powerful love for the longest periods of time, right? Yes, we can tap into that for moments throughout the day, and maybe we can maintain it for several minutes or an hour, maybe longer than that. But our goal is to be able to maximize that length of time. If we can get into that space and stay in that space 24/7, then yes, we have achieved that highest level of frequency. So I think our task is to work together with as many like-minded people, like-hearted people in the world, so that we can encourage one another, help one another to raise this frequency so that we can also maximize this frequency and also maintain it for longest periods of time. And I think through resonance, this will then accelerate the process of the collective conscious change of consciousness.
And do you have a practice that you'd be willing to share of how you come back into connection with divinity? Because what you're talking about is so important. And so as a role model, you'd be willing to share a practice that you utilize?
Yes, I can share several, but one thing that I want to share, which I think this is universal and everyone here, I think, can connect to. If you look at all authentic spiritual traditions, true esoteric traditions, they all have a practice of what we call the principle of 2 wheels. So if you look at the 2 wheels of a cart, if both wheels are turning, the cart moves forward. In other words, evolution. But what happens if only one wheel is turning? It goes around in a circle. What are these 2 wheels? One wheel is what all true spiritual practices have, some type of technique or methodology to purify, in other words, detoxify the body, mind, and spirit. And that could be anything. It could be meditation, it could be mantra meditation, it could be fasting, it could be jogging, It could be forest bathing, walking in nature, all of these practices, whatever the practice is, it could be even dancing, meditation, any practice like that is a methodology to help detoxify and purify the body, mind, and spirit. So that's one wheel. The other wheel, all esoteric traditions have both of these wheels. The other wheel is constantly working on maintaining a positive vibration and striving to elevate the consciousness. Now, we're trying to do this. And what this means is that when a negative vibration comes up, we need to do our best to diffuse that negative vibration as soon as possible. Now, having a negative vibration come up is not a problem, because that negative vibration comes from the shadow within. All we have to do is over time decrease and eliminate that shadow, then no more negative vibration will come up. But we're still on this path, this journey. So when a negative vibration comes up, it's okay. Okay, it's just being stimulated, it comes up. Our job is to do our best to diffuse that negative vibration as soon as possible. Because if we maintain negative vibration, then we start to accumulate more toxins. Okay, so you can do whatever you want, whatever you need to diffuse that negative vibration. So I think this is what all of us on these spiritual paths try to do. But there are several practices that are very, very powerful in cleaning up and purifying the deepest consciousness, not what we're feeling right now. Okay, what we're feeling right now is in our conscious mind. So we're all right now probably feeling pretty good, or maybe sleepy, whatever. But that's what is in our conscious mind. But let's say something happens to us, we get tested. Someone says something rude to us. We're driving on the road, we get cut off. A negative vibration comes up. Where does that negative vibration come from? Did the other person put that negative vibration in you? The answer is no. That negative vibration is the shadow, comes from the shadow within the deepest consciousness and floats up to the subconscious mind and floats up to the subconscious, then conscious mind. So there are practices that we can engage in that will help to purify and eliminate the shadow within the deepest consciousness. So I'll just mention one or two, and all spiritual traditions have this. One is a gratitude practice. To say the word thank you in any language at least 500 times a day. I recommend 1,000. And it doesn't take that long. To say thank you 1,000 times, I've been doing this for many years, takes only about 12 minutes. And you could do this while you're driving in a car, waiting in line, and something like this. The key point about this practice is that you have to at least whisper it or say it out loud, because the power of the word is very, very strong. And the power of the word, the way this works is that when you say something verbally, negative or positive, you're planting a seed. You're planting a seed in the deepest consciousness. And then what happens is over time, these seeds sprout. So if you say a negative word, you're planting a negative seed in your deepest consciousness. And if you say enough, then after about a month or 2 months, they start sprouting in your deepest consciousness. In other words, releasing more negative vibration. Positive words are the opposite. So if you say thank you, I love you, those types of vibrations, you're planting a seed each time in your deepest consciousness. And then what happens is after about 6 weeks or 2 months, they sprout. And what happens is then this helps to decrease the negativity in the deepest consciousness and creates a permanent shift in consciousness. There are other practices that you can do. For example, if you have any type of sacred scripture that you really, really enjoy, any kind of sacred scripture or spiritual teaching, those always emit light. So to be able to read some type of sacred scripture for 15, 20 minutes a day, that light energy goes into your conscious mind, it fills it up, then it starts filling up, goes down to your subconscious mind, and then after about a week or so, it takes about a week, starts entering into your deepest consciousness, and also will help to purify the negativity in the deepest consciousness. Other practices, one other practice that I can mention, which is very, very powerful, in cleaning up the deepest consciousness is working directly with nature. Working directly with nature. Now, there are others, but I'll leave it at that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for the practices. And I really think I'm noticing a lot of people are responding beautifully to the saying thank you 1,000 times. And thank you for letting us know we have to actually say the words. We need to put it out there. One of my best friends, Jonathan Robinson, was in India, and people took him to a very famous guru. And this was when he was earlier in his life. And the guru promised people that there's a mantra that he whispers into people's ear, but you can't, he whispers it. So Jonathan goes to get the mantra, and that's what the mantra was. Thank you. That was the great, mantra. And it is so simple, and yet it's something for us to remember. So I'm going to bring back Rev Deb and Juan Carlos for any final thoughts you want to share with Ken.
And that was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, I was just really delighted to hear about all of the deep wisdom that you shared with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, also very thankful. And I just want to stress that once these practices come into us and we can tap into these moments of enlightenment and we can keep them longer, that one of the codes is that will go as an imprint to our social systems, and that will speed up in a faster way the transition to a more conscious community at the global scale. So thanks a lot.
And Ken, before you go, I'm going to your website, and what a beautiful name. It's happycounts.org. Can you tell us a little bit about the Happiness Alliance?
Sure thing. This is part of the Gross National Happiness movement. And so this was a movement which was started by the King of Bhutan many years ago. So just like we have, the gross domestic product, or in the West as a way of counting or measuring the economics, the gross national happiness is something that was presented and inspired by the King of Bhutan. So how do we measure our level of happiness is what he stated. And so this is an actual policy framework which was presented by the government of Bhutan. And there was a conference at the UN in 2012, which I attended. And so now there are other countries that are trying to measure the collective and individual level of, let's say, happiness or joy, etc. Not just, for example, economic wealth, but wealth when it comes to happiness and joy.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And again, that's happycounts.org, happycounts.org. And let's all order the Happiness Policy Handbook. And yeah, it's very cool.
No worries. Scroll back up to that. That was great. No worries.
Ken,
Ken, that was just wonderful. And Scott, I see that we're coming a little bit over time, and I know that Mindahi has another commitment. Can we quickly bring him on?
Absolutely. And we will have an Omashar song after Mindahi.
Yes, and we'll be looking forward to that.
All right, Mindahi, you are on camera, and Rev Deb is going to tell us all about you.
Well, I'm always delighted to spend any time I can with Mindahi. I was particularly thrilled last year when he came to my home in San Miguel de Allende because he wanted to do a water blessing at the pyramid that's just outside of San Miguel. And I was surprised because I knew that his home was south of Mexico City, which is quite a ways from here. And he said, no, this was special to him because it was an Otomi pyramid. And Otomi is Mindahi's lineage. So he's not just someone who has that ancestry. He's someone who carries the richness of that ancestry forward into this world, where he has been traveling all over the world. In fact, just recently got home from, I don't know, how many countries did you go to, Mindahi, this trip? It was like, where's Waldo, trying to figure out where Mindahi was, because he went to see the Dalai Lama, and then he was up in the North countries, and he was everywhere. So yeah, how many countries, Mindahi, were you on this voyage?
I think I have been like more than 15 countries now. Okay.
So welcome home to Mexico.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
every place he goes to the natural sacred sites that his heart passion is about protecting them from development, but also nourishing them with our prayers and more. So I'm really looking forward to what he has to say about the codes for planetary awakening. And Juan Carlos, maybe you can come on and start our conversation with Mindahi. And thank you for staying on. I know you had to leave a few minutes ago, so thank you for still being with us.
Yes, thank you, Mindahi, brother. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I met Mindahi when we were in Egypt on a pilgrimage across the world and sacred sites. We went to Mount Shasta, to Hawaii, and then to Azores, and we've been in many places. And one of these codes for the planetary awakening, the codes in a way means shortcuts, acupuncture points on how we can speed up the awakening in the planet. When talking to a friend of mine, Bernard Letard, he told me about the importance of sacred sites and how he was measuring through dowsing how important it is to keep these sacred sites sacred. When doing ceremony with indigenous leaders in Mexico, they do pilgrimages and ceremonies in sacred places because they know that if we don't do ceremony, if we don't do these pilgrimages across the ley lines, the consciousness on earth will go crazy. And if we do ceremony in those places collectively and keep those sacred sites as sacred, doing ceremony with the higher frequency as possible, that's acupuncture to the planet on how we can activate higher consciousness. So this is a very important code for our planetary awakening, keeping the sacred, doing the ceremonies in those places, because what I have seen or what I have experienced is that we open portals from heaven to earth. And as we raise vibration in a sacred site, which help us to reach higher levels of energy because of the energy of the place, then we can go faster, and creating this cylinder and bridges of light from heaven to earth is a very important code for all of us to be very actively working on it. So Mindahi, you're the expert. Would you like to share about the importance of this type of work, what type of work you are doing, and well, I've been joining and giving a hand in terms of this network of sacred sites, doing ceremony at the same time, and the many efforts and importance of this as a code for a planetary awakening. Thank you, hermano.
Gisenwa siku gisenwa si kwada gisenga sinana si dada si akte tigmewa rasukoi hirasukoi kwa dine kyunki ki chalamoi chalashudi dine kyunki ki Tio Ka Si Makame Makata. Brothers and sisters, it's a great pleasure to be with you. Thanks to the original grandmothers and original grandfathers. We acknowledge Father Sky and Mother Earth and the celestial bodies as our family. We acknowledge the four sacred elements of life, but also we acknowledge the tree of life in the center, which connects the underworld with the Father Sky. And we acknowledge that we are here not forever, just for a while. And we acknowledge that we have misbehaved for such a long time as human beings, as a species. And this is the time to behave. to remember who we are. We, as original nations and peoples, we know the work we have been doing. We know that we are nature. We know that we are thoughts. We know that we are spirits. And everything around God's Spirit. But this anthropocentric way of thinking is killing life, is killing ourselves. Because we think we are the most intelligent species in this planet, and we are not. Actually, we are the problem. But we can be the solution. Because, of course, there are individuals, but the individual doesn't exist if there's no collective way of thinking, collective way of doing, collective way of feeling, and collective way of coming together. Nobody can live on their own. We need the air. We need the water. We need the soil. We need the clean energies. We need the wind. How come we have come to this place, to this crisis? How come? What kind of things we need to think about, to carry out? So that's the reason we talk about original instructions, original principles, original tasks, because we say that every single being in this world got their mission, and the mission we believe as original nations and peoples, as human beings, is the care of life. If we are not doing this, we are not evolving. And we know that we also have special places in our bodies as this Mother Earth, and those are sacred. Mother Earth got a heart, a womb. Mother Earth got a belly. And this Mother Earth is suffering. And Father Sky is suffering, is crying. Sacred sites are so important because they give us the energy that we need as a species. We know now that ancestral wisdom is important to see the future. Of course, we cannot live in the past, but we can acknowledge the past. We can learn from the past if we want to see the future. But also we cannot see the future. We cannot live in the future if we don't know who we are. What is the importance to be here in this world? So today we know as well that 80% of the biodiversity in the world is in indigenous, so-called indigenous original nations territories. Let's not take it for granted. There is a sacred relationship in this task. We are nature. How we interrelate each other is how we are going to foresee the future. It's not only as many scientists are just saying, even thinkers or philosophers, what kind of future this so-called intergenerational equity, what kind of future we are delivering to the future generations in this anthropocentric way of thinking. But it's the other way around. what kind of future generations we are delivering to this planet. So now this is the time to rethink our place in the world. Sacred sites then are not just natural because we are nature, but we also are thinkers, thoughts. And as my brother Ken was saying, it depends how you direct your thoughts. We have thousands of thoughts every day. Most of them are worthless, negative. Very few are positive, and even less are very creative. We just received in 2013 some earth mandates to protect sacred sites, the acknowledgement of the spiritual authority of original nations and peoples, the spiritual authority, not a religion, is how we interrelate each other. So we have something to offer. Always be in service. Because this dominion or domination code is killing Mother Earth, is killing us, is killing our minds and spirits. We need to go from the me to the we. There is no time. And this is the time to come together. And we call this unification process. So we need to rebuild our places, our houses. We need to rebuild even families, communities, territories, so we can have a better world. And the world is not just one. There are many worlds, many dimensions. So the experiences that we have. So now the Earth mandate is also to exchange ideas, exchange produce, but good. Because we aim not at the sustainability level, because it's just a step forwards. We are evolving towards that. But we want the good living. And the good living is to treat the four sacred elements as sacred. Because water is not a resource. Water is a sacred element. So the other three elements. But we need to put those in public policies and also in our everyday life, how we treat each other. I just want to share with you that my grandfather always stood up and gave a greeting to the sunrise, acknowledging that moment at a noon, at a dawn, when the sun sets. Just those beautiful moments when you receive the cosmic and all the energy that exists in the universe. Those practices are always very powerful. Why we are coming together? Because we need each other. It's not our problem. It's not just our problem. It's our problem. Everybody's problem. So it is beautiful. Now, when we receive these instructions, think beautifully. And think beautifully takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort. Because we want to bring clean ideas. Clean ideas is all what we need to clean ourselves, to clean ecosystems, to clean the environment, to clean the bioregions, and to recover our place in the world. We need to regain collective dignity. It's not an easy task, but we can do it. So now we call these sacred sites biocultural sacred sites, because it's the place where the energy emanates. And that's why we can have this energy. When you visit a sacred site, you can feel it. Actually, we have seen some very special confirmations. You enter to the place in a sacred way. You ask permission to the entities, to the deities, to the spirits. And you are there to acknowledge, to give back, to offer, to give offerings and payments. Those are the spiritual payments. And it's not easy. And we have been doing this for centuries and millennia. And we are continuing doing this. And we will continue doing this as much as we can. For everybody, for everything. That's why when we say all our relations, we are not talking just about human beings. We are talking about plants, animals, minerals, and even those entities that we cannot see, but we can feel. It's so very, very beautiful. The time I was in Kona, together with my brothers, I saw these beings. They do exist. But it's beyond our rational way of thinking, because it's mystery. And you know why we say what we say about mystery? We don't want to know what is mystery. We don't want to understand what mystery is. We live in mystery. Then we can transcend. Then we can evolve. If we live in deep respect, in reciprocity, now in regeneration. Because there is no climate justice without climate restoration, without bioregional restoration. So this is the time to come together again, as families, as communities, as nations. So this is a very big task. At the same time, it's very simple. We have to put original instructions, original principles like love, like reciprocity, even precaution. When we carry out anything, we might affect others. One of the most beautiful principles of life is reciprocity. You cannot just take and take and take, but you have to give back. It's what nurtures life. And remember, we are not here forever, just for a while. Thank you very much. Kamadi Monshingentini Kwada, Monshingentini Ku. Hey!
What an honor to have you with us, sir. Bringing up your compadres here. And if people want to learn more about your work, Rev Deb did find your website of the fountain, which I'm going to go to that for a moment right now. And perhaps you can tell us a little bit more just about the work that you're doing and how we can learn more about you and your beautiful, beautiful teaching.
You know, the sacred territories, sacred cultures, sacred economics, is because we want to see the world intertwined, interrelated. Those borders, they don't exist in in the origins. These social constructs that we are learning in schools, they need to be changed. Even the curriculums need to be changed, because if we treat the land as a commodity, then it's in the domination code, it's in the dominion code. If we treat land, the territories, as sacred, then we have a different relationship. For us, for example, corn is sacred. It's a being, because it teaches the cycles of life. And the cycles of life always teach us how to live in this world, but we are not alone. Mother Earth is not alone. She got family. So we are travelers in this time and space. So the different constellations of so-called now organizations of NGOs, and that we call in the original nations and peoples, traditional organizations, traditional way of living, is how we can rebuild our places. We have to come together, like-minded people, initiatives, how we can disperse the wisdom, because now the problem is that we have so much information, we have so much knowledge, but we are lacking wisdom. So we need to recover how we can treat ourselves, treat others, treat other species. So that's why these organizations are trying to be in service beyond this anthropocentric way of thinking, just to be in service for the good living, for life. Because we know that we are taking care instead of taking over. We just get enough and we don't spoil. Those rivers, those mountains, those caves must be alive. They are beings. They are guiding us. We just need to listen once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mindahi, for sharing so deeply with all of us. I know we all received these codes just listening to you this evening. And we have a question for you in the chat. Someone is asking whether the Otomi people are still doing the annual 8,000 drums ceremony honoring the ancient prophecy of your people.
Yes, we are carrying out many ceremonies. Many. We have many ceremonies, and we have a big task. We are recovering even other ceremonies that were forbidden because of colonization. We are coming back.
Bless you.
Mm.
And
Thank you so
bless
much.
the special work that you are doing. It's so important to our future.
Thank you so much, Mindahi. Thank you.
Yes.
Madi.
One of the things that became apparent in our chat is Juan Carlos shared this is the first time that there's been a public presentation about these planetary codes. We're all kind of witnessing something very special and very unique. And so it's really an honor, Juan Carlos and Rev Deb, for providing this and then bringing on people like Mindahi and Ken and Elizabeth. It's just I feel like it's a very, very special evening, and we're really very privileged to be here with you right now. Thank you so much.
And I hope in the future we'll have Juan Carlos back and be able to hear more from him.
Absolutely.
Because he has many stories to tell and much to share.
Well, here's what we're going to do, because we're running a little bit late. We're going to actually save the pre-record video that I did with Anne Marie for 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now, we're doing a whole show previewing 11 Days of Global Unity with Rick Olphick and Ben Bowler. And we're going to show that video then, because she mostly was talking about her work with the Hague Center and Peace Week. So come back in 2 weeks for Anne Marie. We are going to digest what we just heard from Mindahi the best way possible, which is through Omashar music. And then we're going to come back for a few any final questions that people do have for Juan Carlos. And then we're going to move into our group KES Healing with DJ from the Twin Ray group. But to digest, my favorite digestive enzyme is Omashar. Hello, Omashar.
Distance
It sure is good to have you back live, and a big thank you to Eleanor, Joy, and Ian for always leading the dance party.
They totally rock, Scott. I feel so honored to be on the show tonight. I mean, every show, but it just gets deeper and deeper because we're moving into that which we are, which is the awakening world. And it's not a practice. This is not a practice. You know, this is the real thing. We're doing it and it's unfolding. And holy smoke, Mindahi and Ken and Elizabeth and Juan Carlos and Deborah, phenomenal. I feel so alive. Thank you.
Thank you. It's beautiful to have you back. And yeah, it's been a very, very powerful, powerful show.
We're grateful to be here. You, Scott, and Omashar too, and everybody who's in the Zoom room with us. You bring out the best in us.
Thank you.
Indeed, it's been beautiful to be here. Thank you, everybody. Looking forward to share more of these codes and how we are planning to bring them into life. It's going to be a beautiful representation with images, videos, experts, and projects talking about this. It's going to be a mandala of codes with projects, with people, and the capacity for any one of you joining, all of them, or the ones where you want to bring greater impact. So that is the vision for the codes for a planetary awakening. When we actually activate the genius in the planet and reach the critical mass of people moving into this planetary consciousness that we all want to live, and embracing this new age of interdependence, when we all become indigenous to this planet, where we learn to be like Mindahi is like an indigenous person is the one that didn't lose the connection to Mother Earth, and we can still talk to plants, stones, animals, and all of the spiritual beings that are always surrounding us. So let's walk together this path. I'm looking forward to share this road with you. Thank you, Scott, for making all of this possible.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Juan Carlos. And I, saw in the chat, so many people were saying, bring Juan Carlos back. Bring all these people back. We want to hear more. And so we will do that.
Can we have everybody come on screen now? Can we see the gallery view and just have a moment where we all just say thank you, thank you, thank you. Ken Kitatani's prayer recommendation, I think, would be a lovely closing for us tonight. Everybody want to join me? Can we see everybody, Scott?
Yeah, I've got the people whose cameras are on.
Okay, but I don't
about,
see.
Here we go.
If you go to gallery view, upper right-hand corner, you'll see everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Oh
you.
my.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love, 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 love.
Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gracias a
Thank
todos.
you.
Thank
you.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Deep gratitude. Gratitude. Gratitude.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Juan Carlos.
What have you started?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Woohoo.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
See you all.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Love from Andrew and me.
Now I'm coming back to us because we're not done. We still have the beautiful KES group healing that's going to take place with our beloved brother DJ, who's actually in the room right next door to me. So we're going to do that. But Rev Deb, do you want to, how would you like to conclude this part of the show?
I thought we just did.
You're complete? Okay.
I think we're feeling those codes of planetary awakening through all of our wonderful guests. And my gratitude certainly goes to Juan Carlos for putting this together, and to Elizabeth, our beloved evolution biologist, to Ken Kitatani, who brought us some deep wisdom from the East, to Mindahi Bastida, who brings this indigenous tradition that is so profound that I just, every time I hear Mindahi speak, I want to do more. I want to be closer to the earth. And so this is how the codes come into our minds and hearts and spirit. And Dr. Ivy, who opened us to our star selves to begin this program this evening. So thank you so much, Scott Thomas, for weaving this beautiful program as you do every week and helping the global peace tribe to find one another and bring forth these codes of planetary awakening. Deep gratitude.
Thank you. You know, you reminded me a little bit just now of Dorothy at the end of The Wizard of Oz, when she's saying goodbye to the Tin Man and to the Scarecrow. Scarecrow. So it's, you know, your love of all missionary leaders. I mean, you really are kind of our Pachamama of all the different evolutionary leaders. The love that you have for each and every one of us is so, it's very beautiful.
Well, this community brings forth that frequency. And I think that is our mission as a community of evolutionary leaders. And by that, I mean not only the members of the Evolutionary Leaders Circle, but all of you who are part of this extraordinary transformation of human consciousness that's happening on the planet right now. Blessings.
Thank you, Rev Dev. I love you so much. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. And stick around for the healing. It's going to be very powerful. Very powerful. So I'm just going to do a couple of very quick Global Peace Tribe announcements, and then we will turn it over to DJ to lead us. I'm going to stop the recording of this and start a new recording when we turn it over to DJ. So next week, we've got two very special shows designed. On Wednesday night's Awakening World, we're bringing back Reverend Bridge Feltis, who, of course, is the very dynamic speaker. She's been on the show many times before. She's the creator of the Remembrance Institute. And it's also going to be a night of passage. Our beloved Trish Wright, who's been co-hosting with me for 3 years, is going to be taking a leave from the Awakening World. She is going to UC Berkeley as a full-time student, starting now, basically, in September. And so she's really needing to focus on all the classes that she's taking. So this will be Trish's last evening co-hosting after 3 years of co-hosting with me. And so we wanted to honor Trish by bringing on her, probably her mentor, certainly. Reverend Bridge is her mentor and one of her favorite presenters. So that's going to be Wednesday night's show. And the theme is going to be quite profound. So please join us on that night. And then on September 2nd, it's another evening of Soul Search. And we're going to be bringing on some of the major teachers and luminaries from Soul Search with the theme of how we are bridging heaven and earth through our body temples. And as you can see, we've got an extraordinary lineup of people who are going to be joining us that night. Special musical guest, Peter Sterling, and of course, Omashar will be back playing more music. And the KES group healing is with a woman coming to us from Finland. So that's going to be next week. So it's going to be 2 wonderful shows. All right. So we started about 4 or 5 weeks ago. We're really integrating more and more our beloved Global Peace Tribe community with our Twin Ray community. And one of the ways that we're doing that is every night we have a group online meditation at 6:30 p.m. I want to acknowledge beloved Deborah, who has played a big role in putting all of this together. And so every night at 6:30 p.m., you can join us for a meditation. It's always presented by a different member of the Twin Ray community, or on Saturday nights, we integrate it in the Awakening World with whoever our guests are, just like we had that beautiful experience with Dr. Mama Ivy tonight. So join us at 6:30. I'm going to put the link into the chat box so that you know where it is, or here it is. You can take a screenshot, anybody watching on Facebook. What I'll do is I'll make it big for a moment. So if you are watching on Facebook, take a screenshot, and there is how you can join us every night at 6:30 p.m. And then the other way that we're integrating is now we are concluding every Global Peace Tribe show with a KES healing provided provided by one of the most advanced members of the Twin Ray community in the KES world. And so it's my honor to introduce somebody that I get to work with and I'm currently living with, my temple mate. This is beloved DJ. He is one of the two most devotional people I've ever met in my life, the other one being beloved Deborah. His devotion to awakening, his devotion to the Twin Ray is quite beautiful. And so DJ, can you tell for people that are new a little bit about what the KES healing experience is and how we can best enjoy what you're going to offer tonight?
Absolutely. Namaste, everyone. And thank you, Scott, for the opportunity to be here tonight in service for this beautiful container. It's been a really beautiful evening and just a really inspiring group of beautiful souls here tonight. So it is truly my deep, great honor to be part of this and to be a vessel and a conduit for this light of Christ consciousness in the form of the Christic energy system to flow through me and to allow for great healing, great recalibrations, blessings and miracles, and anything that really each single beloved here can receive at this time. Just a little bit about me. I've been a student of Twin Ray for about 5 years and have really been very dedicated to this path and have taken all the certifications and courses, and now I'm part of the Twin Ray team and organization. So the KES system specifically has been very profound in my life, very profound for the community here and globally. And just recently with the last certification, we have been certified to offer this into a group container. So that's what we'll be doing. This is what a lot of the other KES practitioners have been coming on the show and sharing some of this, some of this gift and blessing. So as we begin this, Scott, did you have any other questions for me? Would you like me to really begin the session?
You can go ahead and begin the session. Thank you so much.
Yeah. What I would love to do is just share that this energy and this light can best be received the more we are anchored in the heart space. And gratitude being a beautiful theme of tonight, the more we can express and feel gratitude, the more we just open up our vessels to receive. And I would invite everybody just to take a moment right now to just really drop into your heart, close your eyes, and just take a couple of deep breaths into the center of our hearts. From this space, maybe setting the intention, connected really to your soul in this moment of what you'd like. What is the purest intention from your heart space for this KES group healing session? As we begin, just allowing yourself to soften up to really soften your body, your shoulders, your upper chest area, stomach, your legs, your feet, just really softening and just witnessing the breath expanding as you just focus your awareness into the center of your heart. And just really relax into this and enjoy. as we give thanks to the entire heavenly guard, the ascended collective of all ascended masters, all high councils of light that are in great support of this grand mission on the earth. You may slowly come back into this call, softly and gently, back into the body. Just feeling this beautiful gratitude just to be on the earth at this time. A great joy. For the great fulfillment of the prophecy of the Golden Age. I thank you all from the depths of my heart and soul. I hand this back over to Scott. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, beloved DJ. Thank you, Sylvia, for that. I'm going to go to gallery view so we can see all of our beloveds that are still with us. Most people have their cameras off. I see there's still 35 in the Zoom room, but these are those that are turning on the cameras. And thank you so very, very much. And DJ, do you tell us a little bit about your private offerings? Is there anything that if people want to have a KES healing with you, tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm happy to provide private sessions and any sort of guidance or any level of support really for anyone on the ascension path. Maybe I'll just leave my email. It's probably the easiest way to contact me directly on the chat box, or you can also get my contact details through Scott as well. But myself and the entire Twin Ray community, we are here to really support everybody in the collective field, and especially this beautiful community here. So thank you very, very much. That was just a beautiful and a wonderful experience for myself and all of us. Thank you.
And before people sign off, it's really important for us to experience your feedback. And so DJ and the Twin Ray community are providing these beautiful healings. Would people be willing to put into the chat box what you've experienced? What did you experience during this time? And be open with it, because it's really lovely to read. The last couple of weeks, we've had some really beautiful comments coming in. So please put in to the chat box what you experienced during this sacred time that we shared together. And DJ, again, I just want to thank you so very much for your dedication. You're beautiful, beautiful. It was the moment you started to speak, my dog, of course, went to the door. DJ, I want to talk to you. I wanted to see him. I'm going to bring our beloved Deborah up. These are like the two most devoted human beings that I know. They're both love God and they're very devoted to God. And beloved Deborah, while people are writing in the chat box their comments, what did you experience just now?
Wow. To me, it was very, very, very powerful, very profound. I could definitely feel, the opening of my chakras. No, my crown chakra wide open, and no doubt. And as usual, I feel so much lighter, so much. I mean, I could just now take off 20 trees. Gives me always so much joy, so much power, so much energy. And it's just like, it feels like a relief, like a profound, like, I don't even want to know what has been cleared, but I don't even want my mind to go into and to destroy the beauty of joy that we all are. So thank you so much, beloved DJ, for opening that portal again and again and again.
Thank you, Deborah. And thank you for all you do to help. Deborah has been helping to coordinate these KES sessions and also coordinating our evening meditations. So thank
I mean,
you.
it's just, I just want to know, really, for those group healings, we, it's usually a minimum really of, I mean, some obviously some money. I don't want to go now into details, and so usually the KS leaders of the light here, of that caliber, earn a lot of money per hour, and so that we get that for free here on your show, Scott. This is so unbelievably beautiful, and I mean, we can really be so grateful. And I just want to really, from the bottom of my heart, thank all of you who every Saturday show up and give that for free. I mean, if that is not devotion, what is devotion, right? So this is, and for just being really this beautiful funnel of light that you are, and letting the light go through you, that Christic light, that is very, very profound. So thank you. I just really, so that's my honor to help you facilitate that and help every receiver here. Getting this for free is just really quite something. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to read just a couple of comments, then we'll conclude. So a few of the comments that came in. Frode in Norway writes, deep star portal connection before time and space. Our beloved Maya says, deeply clarifying. Juan Carlos is still with us. Juan Carlos writes, thank you, everyone. It's been a joy and honor being and sharing this space with all of you. Karen writes, deep sense of peace and comfort. It was bi-directional. Reverend Deb, Rev Deb, whom I love so much, writes, thank you and blessings to all. Maya writes, heart Shaktipat. Omashar, our beloved house musical artist, writes, a heightened sense of consciousness and a clearing of lower interference frequencies. Grace Denise writes, clarity, insights, peacefulness, healing. A Zoom user, to be anonymous, a very powerful transmission. Thank you so much. Susan writes, thank you, DJ, very powerful, clear and loving. Mara writes, very calming and relaxing. Thank you. Another person writes, I felt an energy of profound grace. Deborah Robin writes, such a powerful healing, burning out the impurities, beautiful cleansing heat, and so on it goes. So thank you so much. Thank you one last time, DJ. I'm going to bring you up one last time. And thank you, everybody. I'm going to go to gallery view one last time for us. Those who have our cameras on, there's beloved Omashar. And I hope to see you all next Wednesday night as we bid Trish goodwill on her studies and really taking the wisdom of Reverend Bridge Feltus. And thank you all for being with us tonight. Another beautiful awakening world. We are awakening together in so many wonderful, wonderful ways. Again, thank you to Dr. Ivy for her beautiful sound healing. That was profound. Good night, everybody. Have a beautiful, sacred Sunday tomorrow, and we'll see you next week.
Good night.